Welcome everybody back to the Spinner Rack. The crew is here. Today I got the guys, Petey and Cal.
You did it wrong again. You did the Petey and Cal.
You threw me in the wrong location, so I'm just saying I'm different. I gotta get used to this. You know, I was used to you and here. You're not
I guess
there
it's
anymore.
a gag. This is actually a gag. He just does it on purpose to get on my nerves.
No, it's not.
So basically, guys, we're talking about the finale of Mandalorian, the last couple episodes, what our thoughts were, how do we think this hits up in the whole Star Wars universe, and hey, is this really what we're looking for? So I'm gonna pass.
Yes. Okay, we're done. Bye, everybody. Right? That's what you're gonna say, right?
No, I'm not gonna say. You know, just to preface the whole thing and put beginning and end, the book ends, is that this is one of the best series of Star Wars for Star Wars fans since cooked food, almost. You know what I'm trying to say?
Well, it does compare to Clones or the Rebels.
I haven't got there.
Okay,
you know what I mean?
Sorry.
For live action, since the original trilogy, you know, the original trilogy.
That's saying a lot.
That is saying a lot. You know, we had a whole bunch of issues with the prequels. You know, there was a whole bunch of problems with the new ones, but this really captures the lore, the mystery, the magic of what the trilogy brought us. And this is brought to us by two guys in particular, Dave Filoni from Clone Wars, who did an excellent job in Clone Wars, Star Wars Rebels, and Resistance. And we have the man himself, Jon Favreau, the man who brought us Iron Man, the man who brought us Jungle
Now
Book,
we're going
the
back
man
to that.
who brought us, what did he bring us? He brought us Lion King, Disney's go-to guy. And if everything works out, this man will be running the Star Wars universe.
No,
you know?
Then he'll have to deal with all of the Disney notes on that. It's like, hey, didn't you guys like it? No, we got some notes.
So if just using, I think Disney spent like over about $100 million to get this up. This is a lot of money for an 8-episode show, or basically an 8-hour movie. And it was really well done, especially the whole Baby Yoda surprise that came out. I didn't know when I first saw it whether this is going to work, but clearly it worked. You got the kids in, you got the adults who were fascinated from the original trilogy, you got the Yoda fans, you know, even got rappers singing about the doggone thing. So I got to say, I was pleasantly surprised. And, you know, the conclusion, bringing in of the whole way that it brings in Yoda, the whole cloning from the Clone Wars, the fact that it's still, they're dealing 5 years after Return of the Jedi, and you still have the Grand Moff who are trying to still fight back. You know, the things haven't been settled out. I think the world building, the world vision was excellent. Of course, as you can see, I loved it. You know what I'm trying to say? And I can't see how the detractors. It's not like the first Star Wars, the first Star Wars from J.J. Abrams was basically a beat for beat of the original Star Wars, A New Hope. You know, this was basically, yes, it took a lot of other stuff, but it kept it going and moving forward. People complained and said it's too much. There was nothing new, there was nothing extra, but yes, it was. You know, we really delved into Mandalorian culture in this particular series. We really started going into the Yoda peeps and seeing what happened. And we're also seeing what's better yet, what happened after New Hope. Because there's a huge, huge thing that happened after New Hope to where the new trilogy movies came up. And I think that this is helping to fill in some of the gap. So that's my take on it. And now we can say adios.
You okay?
Spinner Rack.
Spinner out. No. Well, so I think.
So please limit it to just 2 minutes.
After your like 5-minute thing in comparison
were you checking my time?
I wasn't. Did you check my time? I'd like saying I need to go backtrack. But I think it's a fun romp through the Star Wars universe, using someone that looks similar to Boba Fett and getting into that folklore. So you have that. Then you have a little, as we said before, which I said came from a friend of mine, Adam Lawrence, has had the whole lone wolf and cub aspect of this, and then getting into some of the Force, but not heavy Force related. But then you just get a lot of action, a lot of Western in there, and that's what Star Wars sci fantasy is. It's sort of marrying a lot of these different genres of sci-fi, Western, even like this is so much put in there, and then even like the mysticism. So you have all this good stuff that you get to play around with. And as you go, and it's not, they slow things down in different parts of different episodes, and then the characterization is really strong. So when you have points where some characters, you might lose some characters, you feel for them, or as characters change, then you're like, oh, so there's that look. It's like, oh, this character is going to be like the droid that comes back in later part of the episode. You're wondering where he's going to go, that sort of thing. But it's good when you have something where it doesn't feel like they were going back and forth and dealing with a lot of what we can only have opinion on, which would be studio notes, saying, hey, this is what I want to do. And they're like, yeah, just do it.
Studio notes are okay, bro.
No, they're not.
Yes, they're okay. Studio notes, when the studio tries to give guidance to directors, it's perfectly fine. Okay? Well, it's their damn money, okay?
Before I don't want to leave this, say, what aspects from the TV shows before that, like the animated series, have been utilized here?
Well, one of the biggest aspects is the whole Mandalorians. They really delve into the whole culture of the Mandalorians in the TV show. I mean, there have been books and stuff like that, but the very fact that you have the Mandalorians had once fought against the Jedi. In fact, they've actually conquered part of the known space in the Star Wars, and the Jedi were sent out to fight them and to prevent them from going further. Because Mandalorian is not a race; it's a collection of people with the same creed, ideas, and belief. And one of their ideas has been, to dominate others because they are tough. I mean, Mandalore, how they became Mandalorians and why they became warriors, it was just basically a cauldron on their world where they basically fought one another until finally the Mandalore emerged. And that's there. One of the Mandalorians one of their greatest heroes who united all the Mandalorians together was actually a Jedi. And that's where at the very end where you have Giancarlo Esposito, who's Grand Moff. I keep thinking Grand Moff Tarkin. He's not Grand Moff Tarkin, but the Moff. He's like a sector general for the Empire. Instead of a governor for one planet, he runs a bunch of planets. And so he has the dark saber. And the dark saber and you see this in Dave Filoni's Star Wars Rebels, where this was a unifying weapon when he became the leader of the Mandalorians, and his family then passed it on to other members of the family. Whoever had this basically was the leader of the Mandalorians. And you see this in Star Wars Rebels, where one of the main characters, she gets the dark saber and she passes it off to someone else and she becomes the leader. We don't know what happened, but the assumption is that after the end of or during the original trilogies, the Mandalorians were decimated. And they say the Great Purge, where they were destroyed, their planet was taken over, because in Star Wars Rebel, they had their own planet, but they were trying to be peaceful. In fact, they'd gone peaceful. They didn't want to do anything else, but it seemed that they were taken over by the Empire, and then they rebelled against the Empire, and our man Palpatine wasn't going to take that. So you know what he did? He had to crush them. Mm-hmm. And it seems that the Moff in Giancarlo Esposito, the Moff who fought against the bounty hunter, the Mandalorian, he crushed him, and that was his take. So the very fact, at the very end, you're going to have this. It's like King Arthur's blade. What's the name of his blade again? Excalibur, right, Cal? Excalibur. This is a unifying force. Whoever got Excalibur out of that automatically becomes the leader of the Britons, or I guess the UK. Well, probably that's too broad. Probably just England, because they keep breaking up. Who knows? Scotland won't follow too. But the point of the matter is, whoever has this particular blade can become the leader. And
Brexit. I just want to throw that in. We had Excalibur. We wouldn't have any Brexit.
Exactly. Brexit is nuts. It doesn't even make any sense. But it's like New York saying, "Yo, we out of
here." He went to the UK and Britain. I gotta go to Brexit.
I'm just saying, use Excalibur for that bit.
Hey, I think it makes perfect sense. It makes absolutely no sense for the Brexit stuff. All next time what's going to be happening and they're going to be taken over by the Chinese and the Russians and the Indians.
Okay.
It's going to go down. You hear what I'm trying to say?
No, before that happens, Arthur's supposed to return in the hour of England's greatest need.
Well, he better show up soon, because at the rate they're going, Scotland is taking off, and Ireland may take back Northern Ireland, and by the time that they're going to be so impoverished, they're going to be taken over by India and China. But we digress.
Yeah, before we get into politics.
We digress. But the point of the matter is that this is a unifying signal, and the Mandalorian may be the one who ends up taking it. You know what I'm trying to say? And Baby Yoda, he's tasked now to be Baby Yoda's guardian and to find two things: find other species of his race, and to be his or other Jedi. And right now, after the destruction of the 5 years after the end of the Last Jedi, not the Last Jedi, the Jedi, Return of the Jedi, is that most of the Force users under the Empire were killed. Remember, during the prequel at the very end, they were killing all the Jedi. And so anybody who was Force sensitive, and so they're all over. So right now, we know there's not a lot of people who are out there who have these abilities, and those who do are underground. So And in Rebels, we did find a couple people who did have it, but they'll be much older. So it's very interesting. I mean, there's a lot of different plot points going on here. I mean, and we're so excited because it's like, wow, you're bringing in all this new stuff from the Rebels and Resistance, and you're bringing in also the old stuff from, continuing what happened originally in the original trilogy. And I'm not saying they're dissing the other stuff, but the very fact that they're continuing onward. As you can tell, I'm very, very excited that this thing is going well. I can't just say that. As you can see, I'm wearing Star Wars. I gotta give credit. This show has, I think, reinvigorated people who like Star Wars. Because when we were watching The Last Jedi, people were so disappointed in that film, and unfortunately, it went on to Han Solo and damaged that movie, which I thought was an excellent movie. Some people here disagree, but I thought it was a very enjoyable movie. And I think that if it had been placed in Christmas time, like the other movies, and properly exposed to people, advertised properly, I think it would have done much better because it's a light affair, funny, much more engrossing, and also part of the whole universe as a standalone film. And I think as time goes on, they will weave, hopefully, what they're doing in The Mandalorian there. Mandalorian's been renewed for a second season, people. A second season, so that's fantastic. And so basically what that means is that we're going to get more of what we saw here. And we're definitely going to get introduced to more Jedi. And there's going to be more about, possibly, we may see more about Yoda's people. We don't know. I seriously doubt it because George Lucas was always very cagey about the whole thing about revealing too much about who Yoda was, where he's from, what his people are doing and stuff. Even in the books, not too much. They have a couple of stories about like 2 or 3 Yoda-like people and stuff like that. But remember, all that's been thrown out. But then again, they've been adding people little by little. Thrawn, to me, if you ever read the books, Heir to the Empire, Thrawn, probably one of the greatest villains right after Emperor Palpatine, Darth Vader, this super alien, smart guy with no powers, but yet deductive reasoning. It was like a Sherlock Holmes gone bad. And he's able to deduce using people's arts, cultures, what they were able to do. So, and they brought him back in the comics when they had thrown out the whole book. And if they could ever get him, this is why I'm saying the whole movie, it's like, why don't they?
Let me slow down. I just want to say, all right, so when we first talked about this, my first sort of issue was some of the, not even the story, it was just one bit where he jumped on that blaster, but the way it turned around and I did that gag where I went in a circle. That's the only thing I really had.
Wasn't that like from like A Fistful of Money? What's the name of that movie with Clint Eastwood?
A Fistful of Dollars.
Fistful
of money.
Isn't dollars money, my friend?
That's the title. Fistful of Dollars.
But okay,
spaghetti western.
All right, wait.
All right,
so what issues have you had so far? Because so far it's been fun, and I mainly came and see like Boba Fett, Gina Carano, and Bill Burr, and then also
who's Bill Burr?
The comedian.
No, but I'm saying what
he was when they went to steal, get the guy out of prison. Remember,
right.
And he had the shaved head.
Oh, that was Bill Burr. Wow,
he had a great line, But he was in there. What other issues did you have with this so far?
I had a lot of issues, and probably one of the big issues.
It didn't sound like it.
So one of the big issues I had is that it felt so real. You know what I'm trying to say? It's like you go into a world. The world building is so good.
Gosh.
That the alien creatures just
seem
natural.
Is that a negative?
It's a big negative. So the very fact, that the world building felt so real. The creatures that they had. You have these alien creatures. You see movies and you're like, oh, these alien creatures look fake. They just put on they donned a.
You see, he doesn't have these moments often, so I've just been letting him him go. You'll be sucking at the trough, and you just like, okay,
Disney, you can call me 1-800-MARS. I'm you.
But
okay.
But just like most streaming services and a lot of cable TV, people are kind of unsubscribing, waiting for the next thing right now. They're kind of saying it just ended. There's nothing else I want to watch from Disney.
Okay,
I'm gonna unsubscribe.
I'm gonna blow that away. All right, so
you're gonna have stuff to watch from Disney in like 2 months.
No,
like
yeah,
Captain, and you're gonna have the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I ended my subscription.
And so you know what? You do have a very small point there. Like small like that. But here's the thing. In its first month of operation, it blew away all the calculations. They did over 1 million views.
Okay,
They did
okay,
over 10
okay,
million.
okay.
You know what I'm trying to say?
Here's something that
So,
I
hold
know.
on. I'm just saying. They had
No,
been.
no, you've
it
been
has
over here
been-
shellacking these guys for like the last.
It's
you
been
know.
trending every week. It's been trending. It's like one of the top topics. Baby Yoda, Mandalorian. I mean, it really has taken
That's
the
all
set,
besides-
okay.
and
that's
it's
all
trended
besides-
even
Let's let
more.
Cal. Let's let Cal get his
You had a
point.
great season. Okay, it's very redemptive at the end of the day.
They had
But
Pedro
what was it
Pascal.
about? What was it about this? What was it about this that they're missing in the films? And you touched on something like that earlier. Okay, what is the Mandalorian for the most part? It's a Western.
It's a Western, yeah.
Okay, now if we look at the original Star Wars films, what was that? That was an opera. Okay,
Yes.
and what are we supposed to throw in front of all this stuff when it comes to Star Wars? Space. It was a space opera. This is a space Western. If you look at the films that came, the most recent films, okay, it happened in space, but what was that story? We have no idea. Okay, it was all over. It was a hodgepodge. There was never anything definitive of it. So this right here, in terms of the Mandalorian, what I'm hearing from you is stronger because there's an actual story behind it. Okay, there's a genre, okay, or a subgenre rather, that can easily be married to the whole space stuff. So of course, I mean, look, we all loved A Fistful of Dollars, okay, when it was called Yojimbo. So this story, and that story's been, I mean, you had
That was a Japanese version of it.
Okay, that was the original version. Okay, Yojimbo, which was then the samurai became the cowboys over here. Then Bruce Willis did another version of it when he was a gangster. So
Magnificent Seven too. Don't forget that.
okay, so all of those. Well, that was the Seven Samurai.
Yeah,
okay?
that's what I'm trying to say.
But
Yeah.
those type of stories
Spaghetti
stories
westerns.
work, okay, and they translate well. So you can do that in space without any problem. What I would like to see, from what I'm hearing, is okay. Let's have the same stuff with the films at the end of the day. If you're doing Han Solo, which I agree with you, I thought was good. This is a space caper. Okay, so all the stuff that's supposed to work, okay, in those type of stories. But this is set out in space at the end of the day. So I'm not going to break into a bank, or if I'm breaking into a bank, I'm breaking into a space bank. Okay, so there has to be those type of flourishes and that type of dressing that goes along with it. So I'm sitting in my seat over here paying money to see this as opposed to seeing an actual caper. That's what I think they did pretty well with they did very well with the Mandalorian. It's back to a centered story. The space stuff is supportive of the story, but it's not the actual story. And if they can keep that up and somehow translate that from what they have in terms of the streaming service to the films, then again, I think they will be rolling. And if they can just divorce themselves, okay, the Skywalker story's done. Thank you. Just divorce yourself from that. Mandalorian shows you can have a new character.
Yeah.
You can have a new character, and people want to see it. And they put the money, they put the time into not just the effects and the costume, the story.